Hi, Kevin Tharp here. Today what we're going to be talking about specifically is HTML. And the way that we're going to approach that is we're going to be talking about it as a language of structure for content. Now what does that mean? First off, let's look at the overall framing of things. I'm going to use a architecture metaphor here to help you to understand, hopefully help you to understand the way that this works. The way that HTML and cascading style sheets and the content that goes in it and the scripts and all that, they work together. Each of them are considered as separate systems, but they depend upon each other to work as a system. So again, it's a system of systems that we're working with here, and they depend upon each other. Now, it used to be easier to separate some of the pillars from each other, but for instance, some of the new cascading style sheets allow you to do things that spill over into the realm of content. But let's not get stuck into the exceptions right now. Let's get into the meat of it. So what we have here is an image that I'm going to use as representative of a web page. And in this image, let's call it a website, we've got structure, we've got content, and we've got presentation. So if we start to peel this back a little bit, the first thing that we're going to take away is some of the presentation. So this is another image of the same house, the same project. The structure is there, the content is there, but we've taken away some of the presentation. In the previous slide, presentation could be represented by the siding, by the ornate brass over the top of the window. We've still got some presentation because of where the window sits in the wall and that sort of thing, but for the most part you're looking here at structure, content, and a little bit of presentation. Now if we strip away another layer of the presentation, we've got the structure, which is in this case the location that the window is going to go into, the window frame, and we've got the content, which is the window itself. So this starts us to understand the way that we need to be looking at HTML as a structure thing, because in this image what the HTML would be is the actual framing of that window. So we would use the framing to indicate where the window, create a place that the window will go in. It doesn't represent the window itself. So when we take away the presentation, we've got the window, which is the content, and we have the window frame, which is the HTML or the structure. And so when we take away the content as well, we've got a structure. And really, when we are working with HTML at the purest level, when we are working with just HTML, what we are doing is we are building a structure that we can later put content in. Because the way that the web works allows us to separate that content from presentation, you can actually create the entire structure of a website without having any idea what the specific content is going to be, as long as you have an idea of what that's going to be. And so the next thing that's important to think about is that when you are developing a structure without knowing specifically the content that's going to go in there, you know what type of content is going to go in there. You know what function it's going to serve. So what this image does is it shows us that from a structure standpoint, from an HTML standpoint, we might have a door. That's an external doorway. We might have an internal doorway. And so we've got different structures. They're different in there, and we designate them differently. And we might have a window over here. You also have walls and roofs and all the rest. But the idea that I'm trying to get across here is that if I'm going to be building an external door, I need to use the proper framing for an external door. If I'm going to be doing an internal door, I need to use the proper framing for an internal door. And the same thing goes for hypertext markup language. If I'm going to be doing a header, I need to use the framing for a header. If I'm going to be doing an image, I need to use the proper framing for an image. The same thing for a paragraph or an aside or a header or a footer. So when we start talking about form follows function, you need to understand what is it that I'm going to be putting in here. What am I going to want it to do? I want this to hold a heading level 1 that tells the people what is the most important thing on the page. So you would use an H1. And so that understanding of using the proper elements when you are designing for your content will take you a long way towards doing proper coding, proper semantic coding of your websites, and so that you don't end up using, for instance, in the past it was common to use tables to do layout. Well, that is a form follows function violation. Tables are used for tabular information. Divs and other structural elements of HTML are used for establishing the framing of that. So that's the main thing that we want to get across in this particular video is the idea that the form is going to follow the function, that there is a separation between the structure, the content, and the presentation, and that we need to realize that we will be treating those separately. And for instance, on this picture right here, if I had decided that I wanted to use yellow siding instead of green, I wouldn't have changed my content, I wouldn't have changed my structure, I simply would have changed the presentation, and instead of having a green section of this house, I would have a yellow section of the house, and that allows us the flexibility to separate the roles of developer from content designer, from graphic designer, etc. And that is where I'm going to leave you with today.